Okay, hello world, and welcome back to episode whatever of the Brothers Blue podcast. With that being said, today's topic will be conspiracy theories. Specifically the two that we like can get behind. And I like that one thing that we do or are going to do is look at both of them from a scientific approach, which I think is very important. Um, but we can get into that as we go along. And we're going to talk about conspiracy theories. So to get us started, that's Brother Kyle.
And that is Brother Cody. And really, the first point I have to make is completely scientific in that, okay, so we're going to start with the
Oh, yeah.
JFK. We're going to start with the JFK conspiracy.
Right.
And, the fact that he was assassinated. So really, again, the scientific point, the first point that I would make is that the damage done to JFK, Governor Connolly, and the Lincoln itself could not have been done by three bullets.
Right.
Ballistic science does not get behind it at all. The only thing that supports it is the theoretical physics of the Warren Commission. So, yeah.
And so they said, I think Kevin Costner says one thing about theoretical physics is that an elephant could hang off a cliff by its tail attached to a daisy. And so that's the type of things that you can get with theoretical physics. And I'll say this, watching that description of the magic bullet is just so absurd when you think about like physical science and any kind of reality that we live in. It's
Yeah.
like, so that could have never happened ever in any physical realm that we've thought of or can even attribute to being real.
Yeah. And it just sucks because that one theory is like the basis of the entire report.
Yeah.
And so the next scientific point that I would make is that it, like, again, like you watch the Zapruder film, Zapruder film, and it just like is so clearly triangulated fire. And
Yeah. Right.
that's the second scientific point I would make is that like it's so clearly triangulated fire.
Yep.
And to get into the conspiracy side of the reality that Oswald was most likely a CIA agent and could have been one of the 3 points of that triangulated fire. Yeah.
Right, but a point that you made, and I don't know if it was made in the movie or not, but Oswald being part of the triangulation team doesn't make a lot of sense, I don't think, from his actual location. The 3 points of triangulation would be teams 1, 2, and 3, the fucking black op teams for the CIA, right?
Yeah. Well,
Right.
wasn't one of those teams in the depository?
Maybe you might be
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he, like, again,
Oh
like,
yeah. Well, the way he had to be at that point of where the shots were taken was just like, come on, no person could do that.
when he was witnessed 2 floors below, like literally seconds
Seconds, right?
after the shooting had taken place, he was witnessed on a complete at a completely different part of the building. And it just doesn't seem likely that he was one of those points of triangulation.
And so when I brought this up the other day, when you start to get to a point where a theory has multiple scientific anomalies, that's when I start to feel like the conspiracy theory makes sense because, like, the magic bullet, that is a scientific anomaly that they're putting forward as scientific fact,
Yeah.
right? And then the triangulation, again, like, or no, I'm sorry, Oswald's location, according to the triangulated shots that were most likely taken. Again, that's a scientific anomaly that they're trying to put forward as something that was fact, and it's just not.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Uh, so not to beat that horse to death, I'm going to move to the next point, and this is actually where it does get into the more of like the theory.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like, okay, so we've obviously talked or like mentioned that the CIA was probably involved. And the
Right.
thing about the CIA is like that's what they do. They do coups all the time. They've done them in handfuls of countries. And so, like, the idea that they did one here shouldn't really be all that surprising. But the next point, really, I wanted to talk about was the mob, because that's another sort of just like conspiracy theory. But I feel like there is some weight behind it because the Kennedy family, specifically Joe Kennedy, had worked with the mafia during Prohibition. And then Robert Kennedy, Attorney General, went after the mafia like as
Right.
the main target, and they viewed it as like this big betrayal.
Yeah.
Uh, and so, like, Robert Kennedy had betrayed the mafia, and JFK betrays the CIA by firing Allen Dulles. And
Was Joe Kennedy, Robert, and John Kennedy's cousin?
their dad.
Oh, Joe Kennedy was their dad. Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
Yep.
That's even crazier.
What's even crazier is RFK
Yeah.
Jr. is in Trump's cabinet. That's
Yeah. No, no, no. Let's not get onto
let's
that guy.
not go there.
Yeah,
Sorry.
please.
That's literally
Um,
and sorry, Robert Kennedy.
no, because that's how deep the Kennedys are within America, the fabric of political American society.
Yeah,
Uh,
they're American political dynasty.
yeah, right. Even
They're a
still,
very
by
big part.
proving that we've got one in Trump's cabinet. So yeah. Anyways, yeah, the mob and the Kennedys relationship was weird. And it's not like, to me, there's not like a lot of surprising storylines in that whole story. You know what I mean? Like, dad worked with them, and then son went after them, and they, of course, they viewed it as betrayal. That's how the mob is. So yeah.
And like the idea that the CIA was working with the mob also is just kind of like totally makes sense because the AG generally works with the FBI.
Right,
Uh,
right. They're an investigative job or post or whatever.
and so when the FBI starts going after the mob, who does the mob team up with? The CIA. And again, this is like total conspiracy theory.
But it all just makes sense. And I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
exactly.
when it just makes sense, I don't think it's that conspiratorial.
And like Jack Ruby was literally a like had like organized crime like a record of organized crime. And
And
so yeah.
another thing that seemed to happen right in the beginning with Oswald and then Ruby after Kennedy is like, oh, they're just going to kill everyone.
Yeah. That's I know
Dead men tell no tales.
this is different, but and like going back to like the fact that it seemed like a coup and like Connolly when Connolly got shot, you could tell, or like he said they're gonna kill us all.
Right.
And it's like I feel like again conspiratorial that like he's only saying that because he wasn't expecting the car to be like blasted the way it was.
Yeah.
He like it seems like maybe he was in on it. I don't know.
Okay. So I know exactly what I was not referencing that line from the
I know.
movie.
I'm sorry.
So yeah. At the time, I bet Connolly did think that Jackie was gonna die. He was gonna die. The driver was gonna die.
Yeah, they were
Yeah,
ripping that car to pieces with bullets. But
right. And so,
and
but anyways, I think the method after that it was like, hey, Oswald's our patsy. We're just gonna fucking kill him. And the guy who killed him, Jack Ruby, we're just gonna kill that guy too. Because you know what? Witnesses don't talk if they're dead.
yeah, Jack Ruby died of a pulmonary embolism in prison.
Shut up, dude. Please shut up.
Just saying.
Yeah, and Jeffrey Epstein hung himself.
No, that just kind of is one of the last points. I guess we can kind of wrap up the JFK thing, maybe talking about the Warren report because, dude, it's just 700 pages of bullshit. Like,
Right.
yeah,
And does it come out in 2029?
no, the Warren report is like published public record. There are some classified CIA documents specifically pertaining to Oswald that will be released in 29.
Got it.
Yeah,
Cool.
that's I think what's gonna happen.
Yeah. So, well, in the last, it's not in either of our notes, and we didn't talk about it, and it's probably not fair, but I have the whole conspiracy theory that the Federal Reserve was also involved because the CIA, the mob, it seemed like everyone was involved in killing Kennedy. So again, I'm gonna do my research and figure out how I think the Fed might be involved.
Yeah, I'm eager to see. I'm really eager to see what you learn.
Yeah, right.
So, yeah, I do have a concluding sentence. I'll just read this. Evidence points to the assassination of JFK being a coup carried out by the CIA, the mafia, and anti-communist assets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone was involved. Right.
We didn't really get into the Cold War thing. Like he wanted to end the Cold War, and like
Yeah. And Vietnam, and so like you correctly called Vietnam a proxy war of the Cold War, but at the same time, that was kind of like the main stage that Kennedy was trying to avoid.
Yeah, at the time, because
Cuba was the thing, but it was mainly Vietnam that were his reservations.
I was literally just watching a video the other dude, the Korean War is basically Vietnam Part One. It's like the prelude to Vietnam. The
Yeah,
Korean War was
that makes
really
sense.
good. Yeah. But instead of uh China supporting or sorry, instead of the Soviet Union supporting the other side, it was China.
It was China. Got it. Yep. Right.
It was a proxy conflict. It
Right.
was like
And China supported North Korea and we supported South Korea.
yes, exactly.
Right.
Yeah, exact same thing that happened in Vietnam.
Literally.
Yeah, we supported the South. The North were communists, and guess what? They won. Sorry.
Yeah. All right. You want to move on?
Dude, yeah, it's just it's hard to move on from the JFK thing because I could just talk about it forever.
Yeah. Well, let's not do that.
Yeah. All right. So why don't maybe do you want to get us started on our next one?
Sure.
We're
And
gonna be
actually, because your first note, I can just kind of pop off on that and and we can kind of go from there. So the second one that we're going to talk about was 9/11, and I actually also want to kind of put a precursor to this one that, like, dude, I was in Mr. Prorock's art class with Chad Babcock and Seth Brooks watching the Twin Towers get hit by planes. I think that happened. I think the Twin Towers were hit by airplanes. I actually do think that happened.
yeah, hold on. I have to let my dog in real quick.
Okay. So I'm just going to talk while he's gone because I don't like dead air. And so, anyways, even though we all watched the Twin Towers being hit by airplanes, we did not see any verifiable proof of the destruction that happened at the Pentagon. And any pictures or videos that you see honestly look more like a missile hit the place than an airplane. So, like, it's just basic, like, trusting your eyes and what you see. And so that's your first note, is that the Pentagon was clearly hit by a missile. If you don't think that, then you need to go back and look at it and figure it out for yourself.
Yeah, I mean, and this is where like the real there are some like deep conspiracy theories about like holograms and things being like planes didn't actually hit the towers. And it's like, well, a lot of people saw it.
Yeah.
I saw video footage of it.
Right.
Only okay, so this goes back to like just like trusting what has been released about the attack on the Pentagon that day. Like nothing points to like an airplane at all. Except for some the eyewitnesses that were like, I saw a plane. Yeah, there's like three or four different conflicting stories.
One person said they saw a helicopter.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, the Pentagon is just like, I think, well, also like Towers.
Next one.
No, is
Uh,
Towers 11 my net?
no,
No, Flight
Flight
93.
93, where it's like, oh,
Oh yeah.
no.
So this is the other thing about the Pentagon is like an entire plane and all of its passengers were disintegrated upon impact.
Correct.
That is the story.
And that's never happened before ever. So scientific anomaly number one.
This is
Right?
another argument that I heard. Yeah, another argument that I heard about 9/11 conspiracy theorists and a guy that just like writes off all conspiracy theorists, which is something we talked about. It's like, dude, have some that you
Capacity.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Of discernment. Like, and
Yeah.
so this guy basically says that there were so many unprecedented things happening on 9/11 that we can't really count the scientific anomalies.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. If
Yeah.
I heard that, I would just be like, no, you're wrong.
Yeah.
So, anyways, yeah,
Sorry.
Flight 93. Hold on. Flight 93, same story.
Same story.
There's just no evidence of what the official story is, where it's like, that's the Shanksville one, right?
The plane and all of its passengers disintegrated.
And there was like
Gone.
barely any, there was like light field damage in Shanksville.
There was a hole in the ground. Again,
Yeah.
it looked like a missile.
Yeah.
Like they're just, and this goes into the towers falling thing. And
Yeah.
we'll like people were like bombs were going off left and right, and it's like, why is that happening?
Yep.
And
Yeah.
yeah, so like it honestly, like I think on 9/11 they were just like, we're gonna just do a bunch of crazy shit and blame it
Yeah.
on the terrorists.
Yep. Yeah. And because all of NORAD was out to play games, they were like, oh, we can get away with anything.
Yeah, is this real world? No. Yeah.
Yeah, that's literally, that was the transmission.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think we should talk about Tower 7 before the controlled demolition, unless you want to, yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah.
So Tower 7, again, it's just crazy. 500 feet away from Tower 2, or Tower, whichever one it was closest to, it was 500 feet away from it. And falling debris from that tower caused structural fires in Building 7, and it collapsed later that day in about less than 10 seconds.
Yeah, it is one of the things like the two towers fell because of planes hitting them for the first time in history. Two airplanes and their entire crew and passengers completely disappeared twice. But Tower 7 is the only building in history to fall from structure fires.
Right. And that structure fire was from falling debris 500 feet away.
It's just, yeah, again, it's just so ridiculous. Like,
yeah, and so the other thing like, too,
we're gonna do all of this shit and just blame it on the terrorists.
Yeah. And so I wish I had written in, let's not talk over each other. Let's not do that. I wish I had written down the occupants of Building 7, because it was like the IRS, the CIA,
yeah,
the SEC, yeah, all these places held all these terrible records, and the building just burned down.
Pretty convenient.
Yeah. So I think we can do a good trick, because what we should also do is attach the link for Loose Change Second Edition, because that's the video that we've watched, and it's the video that we think is the best compilation of evidence that strongly contradicts the official story of 9/11. And when he goes through and shows that video evidence of windows blowing out, it's like, come on, man. It's just like over and over and over. And it's sequential, and it's in the way that it would happen for demolition. I watched the kingdom being destroyed when we were like 10.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And people, do you know what the 9/11 Commission like says about that?
No.
That jet fuel was burning at such unprecedented temperatures and levels that it triggered the steel beams to collapse in the way that they did.
Right. So something also that it's not in your notes, but I wanted to talk about, and it's something that I've looked up. And so the temperature at which jet fuel burns is not high enough to create liquid steel. But then again, I think the argument is that it didn't liquefy, it just weakened it.
Yeah. And it snapped into those perfect sections that are identical to a controlled demolition.
Yeah. I'm sorry. That's what it was.
Yeah. No, that's it.
Okay, you can finish it off.
Yeah, because we've only got a few minutes left, but I feel like we have enough. Let me just wrap it up. So my biggest beef with conspiracy theories is that they're formulated as a crisis response that is mischaracterizing the crisis itself. So the most recent one, I feel like the COVID thing is the best example. It was a literal true pandemic, and you respond to pandemics with vaccines. But the conspiracy theories had to blow it out of proportion, like it didn't, like pandemics don't happen every 100 years. Yeah.
So I wanted to do a little bit of research based off of that note, and I actually didn't tell you about this. But so yes, every 100 years this happens. In case you guys forget, it was the Spanish flu.
Yeah.
The Spanish flu was a worldwide pandemic that killed 500 million people. And here's the research that I wanted to do, because I am a pro-vax guy, pro-science, pro-mainstream science. And so, shit, what was this? Oh, yeah. Vaccines for the flu, the first one didn't come out until about 1940. So the Spanish flu technically didn't end due to vaccines. And I wanted to do that research to know what I was talking about.
Yeah. Yep.
But that's my thing, is like, I don't think I've ever gotten a flu shot. I've gotten the flu several times, and it was fucking terrible. I've gotten the COVID shot once. I've also gotten COVID once. So, and it was also not fun. So, I don't know.
I would amend my statement to just say that we have discovered, like, dude, if there was a vaccine, or if we knew of that technology when the Spanish flu hit, I think, again, like, dude, vaccines got rid of smallpox. Like,
yep, exactly. And I think that happened in the 50s, right after vaccine breakthrough science. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Breakthrough science. It's like, dude, we really need to not or like take advantage of the advancements that we've achieved.
Yeah. So something that we need to talk about is science and like health, because like everyone we seem to watch and talk about is always sick and talking about how Americans are sick. But I treat my body like a goddamn dumpster. I drink a bottle of gin every day, and I'm fine. I never get sick, ever, ask anyone around me. Ask my mom. She's not around me anymore, but ask my son. Ask my roommates. Ask my coworkers. I don't get sick ever.
Either. Yeah, we had this conversation. I like agree with you 100% on that, Liz. Like, how is everybody so sick? And
All
like
the time.
a lot of people talking about like the pharmaceutical industry and big pharma, and it's like they have no effect on my life.
And that's my thing too. Also, is if you don't want to take them, don't take them. Because I don't. I don't take any fucking pharmaceuticals. I keep ibuprofen and that's it.
All right, man. We gotta end it here. Okay.
Okay. So with that being said,
Knowledge is power.